So, gentlemen, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be the guy who won in the co-main event, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who this past Saturday night at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, defeated Max Holloway for the third time via unanimous decision, earning a 50-45 on all three judges' scorecards. See, I started slipping into my ring announcer voice there because I'm so excited about Volkanovski. This marks Volk's fifth consecutive UFC title fight win, his fourth consecutive defense on this championship tour thus far. And what makes Volkanovski one of the more exciting champions on the UFC roster is that he just seems to be getting better and better and keeps distancing himself more and more from his featherweight counterparts, this time besting Max Blessed Holloway for the third time and firmly, I'd say firmly, closing the book on this rivalry. Mark, let me start with you this time. What were your impressions of this third fight between Volk and Holloway and on this title run thus far?
Yeah, I think this absolutely belongs on the marquee. Of course, we had Izzy defending a title. We had Alex Pereira with an incredible KO that's setting him up for a big fight. Alexander Volkanovski was by far the most noteworthy thing of this entire night for me. I was blown away by how dominant this was. The man won every single round of that fight. And if you were watching UFC for the first time and you didn't know who Max Holloway was, you would think he was some bum. And it pains me to say that because he's one of the most incredible fighters I've ever watched with my own two eyes and one of my favorite fighters ever. And Alexander Volkanovski made him look like he had nothing. Like that man, Max Holloway, destroyed Calvin Kattar in a way we've never seen anyone get destroyed. He went to war with Yair Rodriguez, and he left him broken at the end of that fight. And he went in there with this current version of Alexander Volkanovski and couldn't even find a way to do anything noteworthy to him. Like, there was never even a time where it was like, oh, Max caught him. Like, there was nothing relevant that happened. I'm not saying it was like he got blown away. Sure, it was a semi-competitive fight, but he couldn't do anything of note. That's mind-blowing. But it was a masterclass from Alexander Volkanovski. He has ascended to being the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, in my opinion. I love Charles, but I don't think he's quite there yet. Izzy's obviously great, but his recent performances I don't think are on the level that Volk's have been. And then you have Usman, who I've said for a while is the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. But he's out there having wars with the second best guy in his division in Colby Covington. And Volk is toying with the second best guy in his. So I think at this point, for me, we're looking at the best pound for pound fighter in the world right now in Alexander Volkanovski. Like, it's unreal to me how good this guy has become. And I've heard some takes from people about how Max just fought an awful fight. And I get it, but to me, Max was still Max. Like, I don't think he suddenly fell off after this whole career. I think this was about Volk. I think Max went in there and was expecting to be standing across from one guy and instead was standing across from a whole other guy. And I get it that he fought Volk twice already. So he's probably sitting there thinking, as good as Volk looked against Brian Ortega and against Zombie, Max is like, like, I've already fought this guy twice. He's not going to do that to me. Like, I know his game. It's hard to accept that a guy has gotten this much better. But I think that he has in only a few fights. And I think Max went out there expecting a certain fight, and he didn't get it. And I think Volk just had his number from jump, and that Max could not find a way to make his game work. I think he was too thrown off. I think he was searching for answers. I think Volk made sure there were no answers, and Max just was too unprepared for what Volk was bringing to be able to figure out a way to change his game in a way for it to work. So I guess if you want to say that's the knock on Max, that he should have been more prepared, sure. But I think that was really all about Volk. And then we find out that he fought the last 3 rounds of the fight with a broken hand, which is even more insane. Yeah. So I'm blown away. I really am. And one more thing. We also found out that USADA apparently woke Volk up twice while he was sleeping prior to the second Max fight. So that is some sketchy shit, man. You don't know what's connected or not, but a lot more in this world is connected than people think on the face of things. So who knows what was connected there or not. That's some sketchy shit. But maybe that's why the second fight was so much closer than the first one was and this one was. But either way, Alexander Volkanovski is the king of the world right now.
As somebody who has stood shoulder to shoulder with officials from state agencies and commissioning bodies, they don't give a shit about jack. They really don't. So it doesn't surprise me that somebody from USADA, from some government agency, is knocking on, the featherweight champion of the world's door at 3 a.m. or whatever time it was, because they don't care. They might not even be aware of who he is or his accolades. They're just like doing their job. So anyway,
that should be like a rule though, like not the night or morning of the fight, like of the fight. That's crazy. And not to mention, and I want to add this, Volk took melatonin the night before to get a full night's sleep. So apparently they woke him up in the middle of however that process is supposed to work. And so he talked about how it kind of felt like being drunk when he woke up because that melatonin was still kind of in the process of working. And so it wasn't even just they woke him up, he took a piss, he went back to bed. The problem was he woke up, he had already taken a piss, so he couldn't take a piss right away. So he forced him to drink water until he had to take a piss. And then it was, you're talking about hours at that point that have gone by. And in the middle of a sleep that he's not going to get back at this point, right? Because, so much time has gone by, shit's got to go down. So, yeah, it sounds like it really fucked with him.
You. That's a mental fuck, too, because your whole routine is off. You're going in there thinking, shit, did I not get enough rest? Is my body not going to be right? Yeah, that's a mess. You got to have some kind of communication with the fighters of what time are you going to sleep, and that way the window they're going to be awake for you to show up.
Well, first of all, I think 4 a.m. is fucking ridiculous for everybody. I think that's when they showed up was like 4 or 5 a.m. or something like that.
Crazy.
That's madness. I don't think that's necessary by any stretch of the imagination.
But anyway, sorry for the sidebar.
Yeah,
no,
it's important. It is important to the story.
Yeah, but Omar, keep going and give your overall assessment of Volkanovski's performance and this third fight in this now, closed rivalry.
Yeah, I think is by far one of the best performances Volkanovski has put on. I know that we've had that terrorism event with Zombie and what he did to Zombie in those rounds. But at the end of the day, I think Holloway and Zombie are two very different tiered fighters at this point. And for him to do what he did to Holloway, the way that he did it, and essentially not take any damage, while still pushing forward, while still pushing the pace, while still causing damage, is very different when you juxtapose it to Izzy's fight and how Izzy likes to stay laid back, doesn't really take a lot of chances, sort of does enough to point his way through the fight. Volkanovski is go, 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 go from the moment the bell goes. He busted up Max's face when Max was trying to come in. And I think what was interesting was Max didn't have any answers for him. There was a lot of frozen moments from Max in that fight because he didn't seem to know how to adjust to whether it was the pace of Volkanovski, whether it was the forward pressure of Volkanovski, whether it was the actual damage that was, those punches look like they suck. So it could be all of those things, it could be one of those things, whatever it was, it really threw Max off of his game. And while he still kind of looked like Max with his forward movement and trying to, catch a 1-2 in there and things like that, a lot of that seemed to just be a way for him to find something that was comfortable. And I don't think he ever got that throughout that entire fight. Volkanovski seemed to continuously be one step ahead. And he just looked dominant. And honestly, I would argue that was a blowout. That might be the definition of a blowout. Short of, I guess, all 10-8 rounds, that was a very, very dominant championship performance from Volkanovski. I'm lucky. My wife and I think are lucky that we were there to watch that shit in person because I've never seen Volkanovski fight in person. And I will tell you something about Volkanovski. That man is tiny. That man looks like a thimble.
5'6".
Dude, he looks so small, but he looks so effective in that cage against somebody like Max. And it kind of looked like Max was trying to adjust to his height too. I don't know if that actually plays into
Dude, I was saying that
the
last
game.
week. I think the height factors into why Max has a hard time hitting him because he
Yeah,
has to punch down at him.
Yeah, and even when he's like, when his stance is lowered, when his knees are bent and stuff like that, he still seems like he's too high to hit Volkanovski. And I think that was something that I saw in person that I don't think I've ever really noticed on camera. But Volkanovski is small, man. But Jesus, he is arguably the best active fighter on the planet right now.
I said it last week that Volk has gotten to a level where he seems to just be fighting perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's the perfect fighter, but he is fighting perfectly.
Yep.
He doesn't seem to ever make a mistake. He never puts himself in a precarious position. His defense is so good. His offense is so good. Man. And really, he's a fucking pleasure to watch, man. He really is. He's just kind of mind-blowing how fucking good he's gotten.
I just want to add, I think part of what the issue was for Max was that it's the first time he's ever been in a fight where he was truly worse everywhere. Like, first off, Volk won a kickboxing match with Max Holloway.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even wrestle.
Yep.
Secondly, Max is very used to being the better striker. In almost every fight he's ever in, he's the better striker. The prior Volk fights, he was at least a good enough striker that at any moment he was like, all right, I'm about to get the advantage. Then he's had the occasional fight, like the Yair fight, where Yair was so nasty on the feet that Max was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to wrestle. And he did. And this fight, I feel like, was the first time where he was like, wow, no matter what I do, I am still losing the striking. And I also can't wrestle because I'm not going to be able to get him down and hold him there. Yeah. And I think that's what, like, kind of froze him. Like, he was just like, I literally don't know what is going to work right now. And I think that's why he looked atypical for Max Holloway.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an easy feat to make Max Holloway look average.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did, because Max Holloway is the furthest thing from average.
Yep.
Oh, my God. He's amazing. I mean, his nickname could also be the Great. I mean,
let's be clear. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a future Hall of Famer.
Oh, my God.
First
without
ballot
a doubt.
or whatever.
Yeah, without blinking.
Without
I don't
a
know
doubt.
if UFC does ballots, but he's on the first
career to
ballot.
come as well. This man ain't
100%.
done. This man ain't done.
Oh, yeah.
Might be done against Volk, but he ain't done in general.
But good God, Volkanovski, offensively, he has the power. He has some of the best power in the featherweight division. He has tremendous hand speed. I mean, kicks, punches, he has it all. He can wrestle. Defensively, he both has amazing movement, and he rarely gets hit. And even when he does, he's so compact and strong that he has a great chin. And I have hardly ever seen him rocked.
Yep.
So he's just a tough out for every single person in the division. That being said, let me segue into where these two gentlemen can go from here. Volkanovski, there's a lot of talk about him, going up to lightweight, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I mean, looking at the roster of fighters at 145, and outside of Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, aren't a whole lot of names that he has fought. Chan Sung Jung, he's fought. He hasn't fought. Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen is there. Movsar Evloev, undefeated, is there. Hasn't fought Kattar. I don't know if Kattar's going to get there. Hasn't fought Giga Chikadze. Yair is there. Bryce Mitchell, undefeated, 15-0. He's coming up. So there's a lot of meat on the bone still for Alexander Volkanovski. So Omar, let me throw it over to you first. Put on your matchmaker hat. The champion at 145, Volkanovski. What would you want to try to steer him towards right now if you were the matchmaker?
So there are people that he hasn't fought at 145 at this point. That's a given. The reality is, though, 145 needs to shake itself out, because I don't think the guys that are under him at this moment, I don't see them as people who are deserving of a title shot at this point. They can get a title shot, I guess, by default, because there isn't anybody else, and Max Holloway has essentially been obliterated from this point of, as far as this title run is concerned. But I just think that there's more work to be done within the featherweight division without Volkanovski, and Volkanovski should be called upon once we get a clear number one contender. I love the idea of him defending and fighting 145 and 155. And I think I love it because I think he can do it. And I think he could stay active between the two divisions. And I think that's something that we still, to this day, with all this champ shit, haven't really seen, with the exception of Amanda Nunes. And even Amanda Nunes has had a problem doing it because featherweight basically doesn't exist. So even though she could do it, she's not doing it because there's no one there. This would not be that. 145 and 155 are probably two of the most stacked divisions in the UFC, arguably. And if Volkanovski can hold the 145-pound belt and hold back fucking animals like Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, if he can hold back 155 and 145 and retain and defend proper champ status, give the man a shot. What else does he have to do to get that shot? Conor McGregor had done less at this point to receive champ status. Volkanovski is very deserving of this status. I actually think he could do it, and I think this dude would be able to do it well. I would be excited to see him hold both belts and defend both weight classes.
Yeah, and he's so good, just
Yes.
talent-wise. I could see him at 155.
So could I.
Yeah, Mark, what about you?
So I will preface this by saying I fully agree that I think Volk strikes me as the perfect guy who would be capable of being active enough to hold two belts and actually defend them, as opposed to some of the guys we've seen who have achieved that double champ status. I fully agree that he is deserving of a shot at becoming double champ if that is what he wants. I do, however, think timeline-wise, we're one fight too soon. I don't think it's the right time to do it right now, simply because I think that Charles versus Islam should be happening first. I think there's too much buzz behind it. If it does happen, it's not going to happen until late in the year. Obviously, Volk is going to fight before waiting until spring or whatever it would be to fight the winner of that. I just think that fight needs to happen first. And I swear to God, I will say this right now. If there is a lightweight title fight that does not involve Charles Oliveira, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Like, I know Charles has said he doesn't want to fight in Abu Dhabi against Islam, which is what they wanted to do. If I see Volk versus Islam for the lightweight title in Abu Dhabi without the goddamn champion Charles Oliveira in the fight, I'm going to fucking lose it. I'm literally, I am going to put on a epic rant on this show. It's going to get 1 million hits on YouTube because I'm going to be my mind. It better not happen. With that said, I think we got to do Charles versus Islam first. And like you said, Mike, I don't think the man has cleaned out featherweight at all. Is he deserving of a shot at being double champ? 100%. I just said he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now. But, A, he's never fought Yair Rodriguez, and Yair's ranked number 3 right now. He's fighting Brian Ortega. If he wins that fight, and he does it really impressively, I don't see why we wouldn't make Volk versus Yair Rodriguez. It seems kind of perfect to me. If he doesn't, I understand all those rest of those guys. They kind of got to earn it a little bit more. But you do have Josh Emmett hanging around, like you said. And you have 3 dudes who are undefeated coming up. Bryce Mitchell, Arnold Allen, Movsar Evloev. You could even add, say, 4 dudes if Ilia Topuria is coming back to featherweight. Like, there's a lot of action coming up at featherweight. And I get it. They got to win another fight or two. It wouldn't be crazy if Volk goes and takes a lightweight fight. I get all that. But featherweight is far from empty. So, to me, I think that the move for Volk is either fight Yair if Yair wins this fight, or if Yair doesn't win this fight, obviously he wouldn't fight Ortega again this soon. Maybe you just take the Emmett fight for now, or maybe if you want to test lightweight, but you got to wait for Charles and Islam, come up and fight Chandler or something like that. That'd be fucking awesome too, and I would sign up for that in a second, and that could headline a pay-per-view easily in a second.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe take one lightweight fight that isn't for the title. I don't hate that either. But I think either way, he's one fight away from fighting for a lightweight title.
Just want to illustrate just how stacked featherweight is right now in the UFC. These aren't the actual UFC rankings, and nor are these our Prio rankings. I'm just sort of looking at the upper echelon of 145 pounds. Only 3 guys in the upper echelon at 145 pounds have more than 3 losses. Max Holloway has 7. Kattar has 6. Chen Sung Jung has 7 losses. Everybody else has 3 or fewer losses on their record. Volk has 1. Ortega still only has 2 losses on his record.
Max and Volk.
Josh Emmett is 18-2. Arnold Allen 18-1. Evloev undefeated. Giga Chikadze 14-3. Yair 13-3. Bryce Mitchell undefeated. Like, featherweight has killers, man. So,
yep.
like I said before, still a lot of meat on the bone for the champ, Alexander Volkanovski. Let's talk about, real quick, Max Bless Holloway, one of the all-time greats. Not sure if he's ever going to challenge for a title at featherweight if the champion's name is Volkanovski. But, Mark, let me start with you this time. Put on that matchmaker hat for Max this time.
I think it is the time for Max to be done at featherweight. I think he should finally make his move to 155. He's not going to get another shot at Volk no matter what he does or who he beats. It's 0-3 at this point, and as long as Volk is champ, he's not getting another shot. He's always talked about going to 55. He did it once when he fought Dustin Poirier, which was an incredible fight. I think this is the time. I think it's time to do it. I think he goes right into the mix. Do I think he can be the lightweight champ? I don't know. Am I going to rule out the possibility? No, it's Max fucking Holloway. Who knows? So I think he could step right in. I think that if Conor needs an opponent, this is if Conor can still make 155. He might be saying he needs to fight at 170. But I think if Conor needs an opponent when he comes back, that's an awesome fight that people have been talking about for years.
It's a great rematch. A great time for that rematch.
Right?
Man.
Like, it works right now. And if that's not the case, and Justin Gaethje's not going to fight one of these young guys, which it's sounding like maybe he's not going to do, fucking put Holloway and Gaethje in a cage. Who's saying no to that one?
That one was supposed to happen, too, at this point, wasn't it? Or am I remembering? No, it was Khabib.
Yeah.
Now, jog my memory. When Max fought Dustin, was that a short notice thing?
Yes.
And if we're being honest, he looked smaller against Dustin.
He was. Dustin was moving him with his punches.
Yeah.
Yes.
He looked a lot like if he is going to go to lightweight, then I think he would need to prepare for lightweight, and I don't think it would be a matter of just not cutting as much.
Yeah. Agree.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on from the marquee. We have a lot more to talk about, but congrats to Alexander the Great Volkanovski, and excited for what's next for him. In the main event of this past